Hi, students, wherever you guys are at, thank you very much for joining us. We have a special guest today, but first I want to introduce our American Sign Language interpreter, Mandy David. Thank you, Miss David, for joining us today. And I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Dr. Bondi's video. Dr. Bondi, if you could just introduce yourself and our special guest today.
I'm Dr. Josh Bondi. I'm the Director of Research at the Nevada Science Center in downtown Henderson, Nevada. For those of you who don't know where Henderson is at, if you're overseas, we're in Southern Nevada, and Nevada is one state to the east of California. So we're kind of on the western side of the United States, and we're here at a beautiful scenic state park. I'm here with Ranger Josh, who's going to explain exactly where we're at and what's going on.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the welcoming introduction, Dr. Bondi. My name is Joshua Yelle, and I am a park interpreter here at Spring Mountain Ranch State Park. We're one of 27 state parks in Nevada, and our state park is in the beautiful Red Rock Canyon. You can see some of these glorious mountains we have behind us. We're one of the original ranch sites of Las Vegas, and today we're going to get a chance to share what makes our park special with you.
All right, so thank you, Ranger Josh. So as everybody who's seen our programs before knows, I like to get into the rocks because I'm a rock nerd. But before we do that, just a quick land acknowledgement to the Southern Paiute, or the Nuwu, who this is their traditional home where they historically took care of this place, and they still actually consider it home to this day. There's still a group of people that is still around to this day. So special acknowledgement to them. So on to the geology. So a little bit deeper history before I hand it off to Ranger Josh. To talk about more of the human history. These beautiful cliffs behind us, these are the Wilson Cliffs. So the Wilson Cliffs are a prominent geographic landform in southern Nevada, and it's actually a really traditional geological hotspot. So the Wilson Cliffs formed as a result of a great big fault that runs the entire length of this valley. We're about, what would you say, 20 miles to the west of Las Vegas downtown?
Yes, sir.
So about 20 miles west of downtown Las Vegas, this massive escarpment you can actually see when you're driving around the Las Vegas Valley. If you're a guest in one of the hotels on the Strip and you're looking off to the west, you can definitely see kind of the general area where we're at today. I'm going to pan around just real quick so you can see some of the dramatic landscape that's around us and some of the grounds at the state park. So the rocks that you're seeing in the distance are mostly Jurassic in age. So the Jurassic spans from about 205 to 145 million years ago. But what we're seeing behind us here are about 180 million year old sand dunes, fossilized sand dunes. And those fossilized sand dunes in other state parks and in Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area, which is adjacent to us, have been found dinosaur tracks, mammal-like reptile tracks, giant scorpions, and bugs. All lived amongst those ancient sand dunes. But right here in Spring Mountain Ranch State Park, about 5-6 years ago, a hiker by the name of Harold Larson came across an even older find. So in rocks that are about 230 million years old, in a geologic formation called the Chin-Lee Formation, a period of time when this area was kind of swampy, kind of think of the big cypress swamps of the Gulf Coast of southern United States. This is what this area kind of would have looked like, a lot different than it does today. And what he found were backbones of what would have been about an 8-foot long and 9-foot long giant amphibian. And so this giant amphibian filled the same ecological niche as modern crocodiles. So to us, we would have been like the fly to the frog, probably would have snapped off the side of the riverbank for a quick snack. So that's some of the quick geology, some of the quick paleontology. One more just quick geological feature for those of you maybe are in upper grade levels, or if you're just interested individuals somewhere in the world tuning in, on the tops of these cliffs is a traditional geologic structure called the Keystone Thrust Fault. So the Keystone Thrust Fault is a 100 million year old fault. So when dinosaurs are still running around Nevada, let's shove really old rocks, about 500 million year old rocks, on top of our 200 million year old rocks. So geologists from around the world come to where we're at today simply to study the rocks, what they look like out here, and also Las Vegas isn't that far away. So that's the deep geologic history of this place. And I'm going to hand it over to Ranger Josh to tell us what's so special about the human story of where we're at.
Thank you, Dr. Bondi. I learned a couple things there too. That was great. Thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you for your land acknowledgement. I do like to start recognizing that the history you see at our park is just a drop of the human history that occurred here. Many ages of many people have been here, and it's important for us, I think, when we're out here to keep that in mind because the presence isn't always as felt. What you do see here at the ranch are buildings that date back to the 1860s. These are actually some of the oldest buildings in Southern Nevada, which makes us a unique feature for state parks. Not all state parks are home to that great history. We're actually home to the third oldest building still standing in the state of Nevada that is a non-indigenous structure. It's a blacksmith shop. The park itself has had 5 important ownerships, 5 periods of history that we delineate when we're talking to our visitors. Our park's history can actually be summed up pretty well inside this building off to my left to the east side of us here. This building, our visitor center, is a great place to learn about that history if you ever get a chance to visit us. In fact, if you'd like, maybe we could try stepping inside.
Let's
feel comfortable doing it. Let's see if the technology will allow us. Follow me in, please and thank you. It's going to be quite a change from outside. If our reception gets a little miffed, please let me know. In 1876, this gentleman here, James Wilson from Ohio, starts our ranch. It seems an auspicious place to create a farm, but there is a lot of spring water in the geology that we learned about a moment ago. That spring water allows him and his 2 adopted sons, Jim Jr. and Tweed, who are both half Southern Paiute, to make a very profitable farm out of this ranch. These men, unfortunately, in 1929, have to sell the ranch because of the Great Depression. And they sell it to this man here, Willard George, a fur maker from Hollywood, whose wealth affords him the opportunity to buy this ranch as a vacation retreat and business investment. Willard represents an important transition from a pioneer era of ownership to a Hollywood era of ownership. Willard is our first absentee owner, vacationing here occasionally, and by 1948, sells it to this owner, Chester Locke. The house that I'm standing in is built by Chester for his family as a vacation retreat, and the room that you can see behind me was built by Chester for his wife. A couple neat features of this room, you're actually looking at the boudoir. They build a walk-in shower, the toilet room, and then we can see the closetry right here. Chester Locke and his family outgrow the property in 1955, and they sell it to this woman, Vera Krupp. Vera is the only woman to own our property, also the only of the owners who lives in this house full time. So while it's the house that Chet Locke builds, it's truly Vera Krupp's home. Vera is our most glamorous owner, hosting very fancy soirees here at the house. And we're lucky enough to have some of her personal property here in the home. We have some dresses, as well as some shoes, and things that were worn by her while she lived here at the ranch. Now, Vera wasn't just an owner. Vera was also an active rancher and rode with her men on horseback. When she lives here, she also lives here in the summer months without air conditioning. For those of you that may not be familiar, Las Vegas gets very hot in the summer, sometimes well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here in the Red Rock Canyon. So to make things more comfortable, she builds a swimming pool to cool off during the day. And she builds a really unique feature of the home right here behind me. Vera, having grown up in Germany, would have been exposed to some pretty unique and old architecture. And she brings part of that architectural character back here to the house. In 1948, this door would have had a cabinetry set built in, but Vera transforms it into a hidden passageway. I don't think our cell reception is going to allow us to go in, but you can see me disappear a little bit. And the room continues on to a bathroom as well as an extra sitting area where Vera would have gotten changed and clean before or after swimming. Vera's ownership ends in 1967 when she sells the property to the Howard Hughes Tool Corporation. Hughes Tool Corporation represents the last ownership period of this ranch when it's an active cattle ranch. Howard Hughes sells the property in 1972 to two businessmen, Fletcher Jones and William Murphy. These two men had plans to transform this 500-acre ranch into a high-density subdivision. We're fortunate that people protested at that time to prevent that from occurring. Had they had their way, this building we're standing in would have been demolished. All of the other historical buildings would have been lost, and all the archaeologic and paleontologic resources would have been built over. Luckily, in 1974, State Parks is able to purchase the park, and we have been in the job of education, preservation, and conservation ever since. That concludes about a nutshell what our ranch is about. Would you like to join us on a little walkabout of the home?
Let's do it.
All right. So following me, we're gonna pan over into what is the master bedroom. We can see some of the furniture in here. Our house originally has 4 bedrooms. There's 2 bedrooms upstairs. And then if we can continue back into this hallway, we're actually going to see the Howard Hughes room. The Hughes room was originally the youngest child's bedroom. When Vera Krump lived here, it was actually her bedroom. We have a unique challenge in this museum, how to transform an old house into a museum. This room has some unique furniture in it. We have this lovely leather wet bar, as well as some rattan furniture at my feet, all of which was here during the Hughes ownership of 1967 to 1972. I'm often asked what pieces of furniture are original in the house, and unfortunately, this is about it. Most people don't anticipate this becoming a museum, so it's out with the old and with the new. Would you like to join me into the front room? Let's move on that way. All right. So we're going to walk into our main room now. And this is truly the showcase of the home. Again, built in 1948, this house has a lot of unique features. The sandstone that makes up the main walls here was locally sourced. The beams above my head were also locally sourced from Henderson, Nevada, where Dr. Bondi's museum now resides. And the brick behind me came from the city of Los Angeles. Before being green was fashionable, Chet and Harriet Locke were very interested in recycled materials. Our house now, again, serves as a museum, and it's a great place to come and learn about the history of the Spring Mountain Ranch, as well as the greater area. How are we doing on time, Dr. Bondi?
We have time if you want to show one more room or
one more room? Oh, great, wonderful. Follow me, everybody. This room is not original to the home. In 1948, we would have just stepped outside onto the front porch, but in 1957, Vera builds the swimming pool behind this door, and she creates this room as a space for her visitors to get ready to go swimming. Vera is by far our most colorful owner, and she was known to have a lot of jewelry. Vera was the proud owner of a 33.6 carat diamond, known as the Krauss diamond, that is stolen from her here in the ranch house, April 10th, 1959. She eventually gets the diamond back, but her psychology suffers. She feels that she's now a sitting target. A place like this, so remote, was a place where it would have been easy for her to be robbed again. But Vera was not willing to leave. So she dug her heels in, and she becomes a sheriff's special deputy, carrying a badge and a gun with her the rest of the time she's here. We actually have her badge on display here in the case. And to me, it's one of the more poignant pieces. This piece, I think, really represents the character of an individual in one single artifact. Again, we're very fortunate because in a different time, or if things had happened differently, the building we're in would have been demolished, and none of this history could have been shared with our visitors and with people now from all over the world.
Should we go back to the group room and then we can answer questions?
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bondi.
All right, so taking some more of the scenery. Beautiful building. All right, Mr. Krauss, I think we're happy to entertain any questions anybody might have.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a few questions. So first of all, thank you, Ranger Joshua, and thank you, Dr. Bondi, for help organizing this. The students wanted to know, there's a few questions. There's some for Ranger Joshua and some for Dr. Bondi. We're going to go straight to Ranger Joshua, and they wanted to know who maintains these buildings?
Great question. Nevada State Park staff does. See, that's our logo right here on my shoulder. And we have a whole team of people, myself, the park interpreter, we have maintenance specialists, we also have volunteers that assist with it, and we have park aides. This is a great entry-level position. It's an opportunity for people without a college degree to get their foot into the park system to get that all-important work experience. So really, it takes a whole team to uphold this beautiful old home.
That's wonderful. And there was a lot of impressive history there. I wasn't aware about Howard Hughes' connection there, but that's very interesting history. The students wanted to know how many rooms in total are in the house, and did it have running water when people lived there?
Oh, great questions. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so initially, there are 5 bedrooms in the house. There's the one we're standing in, there's one that we went into, the Hughes room, and then 2 upstairs. And there was actually a mother-in-law suite above the garage. When Vera takes over, she builds that additional room that's attached to the secret bedroom, which has a closet and bathroom. So legitimately its own another bedroom. So by the time Vera leaves, there's actually 6 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms, which is currently where we still sit today. And as far as running water goes, there was running water here initially. Chester Locke was very wealthy, so he was able to afford some luxuries in 1948 that other homeowners may have not had in the area. Things like electricity through generators, as well as water, which would have come from a well system. And we use spring water to actually irrigate those beautiful pastures that you saw behind us earlier.
There's a lot of interesting history there. Speaking of which, what year again was the home built?
Sure. The home is built in 1948, which makes it roughly 73 years old. On January 1st, we'll say 74.
Wow. And one of the kids wanted to know, how was she robbed? Like, was it like old timey by gunpoint? Or I know kids ask the darndest things.
No, it's a great question. And it was pretty old timey. According to the sheriff's report, 3 men from Los Angeles who had heard from criminal contacts here in Las Vegas, there was a wealthy woman living by herself, come to the ranch with bandanas across their face and hold her at gunpoint. They convince her to open the door, posing as salesmen. She opens the door, they barge in and hold her, the three men hold her at gunpoint. So it's pretty old-timey, yeah.
That is absolutely terrifying and very old-timey cowboy times. And just for clarification, people can visit the home?
Yes, yeah. This is our visitor center and museum. We strive to keep this building open every day that we're open. Only day we close is Christmas Day. So any given day from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m., I would love to have you in here, give you a tour of the home if possible. Sometimes tours are a little bit harder because of staffing, but always the house is open so you can at least come in, ask questions, and look through the main rooms of the home. The room Dr. Bondi and I are standing in does require a tour guide, but if you say you were part of this, we'll see what we can do.
Thank you. We have one of our friends in Spain. He would like to ask, he has a really good question. So Pablo, you should be able to unmute to ask. Go ahead.
My question is there were extra buildings around the house, like some for horse or something like that around the house.
Yes. Yeah. I just want to make sure I understood correctly. You were asking the extra buildings around the house, if they would have been for horses and things like that.
Yes, so, that's what he's asking. Were there other dwellings around the home? Yeah.
So this home it's kind of unique. It sits up on a little hill in the middle of a big grass field, but you might have seen behind us a lot of buildings. Those buildings would have been home to all sorts of things: horse barn, We had hay sheds, we have chicken coops. We actually have a chinchilla shed, which is where they raised chinchillas at one point. The fur maker from Hollywood, Willard George, built that. We also have foremen's houses as well as work houses where the cowboys and cowgirls would have lived. Currently, a lot of those are actually still used for things like mechanical maintenance, for things like our wood and metal shop. There's actually 3 rangers that live on property that are essentially the law enforcement part of our park. We have, quite a few historic buildings, dating anywhere from 1863 up until the 1960s, which our ranger station really represents the last building built during that historic period.
This is all very intriguing. I wasn't aware this stuff was here. We had a couple questions for Dr. Bondi. They wanted to know, what is the rarest fossil ever found in the state of Nevada?
The rarest fossil ever found in the state of Nevada. I would have to say it's a first, and it's from Esmeralda County, which is far western Nevada, about halfway between here and Reno. And what we found with our collaborators from the American Museum of Natural History is we found a skull of a 12 million year old 4-tusked elephant that was weathering out of the side of a hill called a Gomphothir. And in the sinus cavities of that weathering away skull were these little white blobs. And so our collaborator from the American Museum is an entomologist by profession. And so she got taking a closer look at these little white blobs under the microscope, and they're actually fossilized maggots. So the maggots had turned to quartz before they had time to decompose. So I would say that's a pretty rare geological, paleontological thing. We're currently writing that up right now, so stay tuned.
That is super interesting and super gross at the same time. So, and some of the students want to know, has anyone ever found diamonds? Because we're talking about Vera. Has anyone ever found diamonds in the state of Nevada mining?
To my knowledge, there's no source of diamonds from the state of Nevada. They're the closest diamond occurrence, natural diamond occurrence, I should say, that I'm aware of is at some place near Auburn, California, which is just outside of Sacramento. Occasionally diamonds turn up in the rivers outside of there, but nobody's found the source to those. But that's the closest source I'm aware of, at least from the state of Nevada. We have all sorts of other gemstones, precious metals, just no diamonds.
Is calcite one? Do they have that in Nevada?
We have calcite everywhere. So limestone made out of microscopic calcite. So yeah, we have. You can literally throw rocks of calcite.
Very good. Okay, so if we wanted to learn more about your state park, where could our viewers go to learn that?
We have a website, parks.nv.gov, that you will find a link for Spring Mountain Ranch. And as a part of that link is a section on both the natural history and the human history of the park. Those are great resources.
And social media.
And social media, yeah, thank you. Also, we have a Facebook presence, an Instagram page, and those are both great resources as well.
That's great. And Dr. Bondi, can you tell the viewers where can they go if they want to learn more about the Nevada Science Center?
Absolutely. So our website is sciencecenternevada.org. We have an up-to-date calendar on there, all of our upcoming special events. And we're on all the major social media platforms and YouTube. So by all means, check us out. Shoot us an email if you have any questions.
Absolutely. And I popped it in the link in the chat. And if anyone is interested in attending any more of these, we will be updating both the Nevada Science Center website as well as the Edutainment Learning website that's in the chat and will also be in the video. So before I go, I want to say thank you to you guys for helping organize this. Thank you to Mandy, thank you to Josh, and thank you to Dr. Bondi. And I want to tell all the students that I hope everyone has a happy holiday and know that you matter. And we appreciate you joining us, and we hope you join us after the new year. So before I let everyone go, I'm going to unmute everybody. So can we all say thank you to Dr. Bondi, and thank you to Mandy, and thank you to Park Ranger Joshua for spending their afternoon with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.